They call me the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor. I am the Doctor. I'm the Doctor. I'm the Doctor. I am the Doctor. I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
Greetings, humans, Daleks, Time Lords, and Zarbi. You're listening to Exterminating Doctor Who.
This is the show where we take Doctor Who's most popular episodes and debate if they're really as good as their reputations.
With your hosts, Aidan and Gula.
And me, George Ellis.
And in today's episode, we are talking about an adventure in space and time. Very, I'm going to say special episode, because obviously it's not an episode of Doctor Who. But it's also, this is going to be released on 21st of November, which means it marks two occasions, all right? Because on the 23rd of November is, of course, Doctor Who's 58th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And on the 22nd of November, it is 1 year since our first episode went out.
Oh, wow. So,
Love and Monsters,
yeah.
22nd of November, 2020.
It's a double
Anniversary special, yeah.
That's nice. That's quite sweet, actually.
Isn't it? There's another time you go, he really thinks about the scheduling, doesn't he? I did plan it.
I know, it's nice to know that you do plan this out, because I'm just along for the ride, to be honest, basically.
You could sort of get whiplash. Just go, oh, we're with Whittaker 1 week, then we're with Eccleston the next week.
Now we're with none of them this week.
Yes, with one of them for all of 30 seconds. But
and he's superimposed in front of the console in one of the shots.
Yes. And then the hands are clearly not him, and there's somebody else in his costume, but that's not the point.
No.
But
when you're watching
it's a nice idea.
When you're watching it through tears, it doesn't really matter, I'll be honest with you.
It's the idea that counts, isn't it? But no, it's a something you hadn't seen before.
No.
But I'd nagged you to. Well, I hadn't nagged you to watch it. I was going, you got to watch it, Sunday. You've got to watch it.
It was less of you nagging me to watch it.
I wasn't saying watch it. I was saying you should watch it, Sunday. You should watch it.
And you were saying you're going to watch it because I've put it on the schedule. So there's no way you're not watching it. So I'm going to tell you you're going to enjoy it, but there's nothing you can do to stop me from making you watch it, basically.
Yes. So you did.
There was no need to nag me. It was just like, you're watching it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And the interesting thing is, whenever you'd mention it, I'd always be thinking, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. Because I'm like, I don't know Hartnell that well. I don't really know much about this point in Doctor Who's history. So it's just kind of like, that was somewhat interesting, but it never really sold me on it. And whenever you explained it, for some reason my brain jumped to, right, it's going to be some sort of documentary thing, isn't it? Some sort of just people sitting in a room, and then it goes to another person sitting in a room, and they're just talking about the time. And I was like, that's kind of interesting if I really, really cared about or knew about that point in time.
Well, why did you, if you thought it was a documentary, why did you think David Bradley was playing the
Because I thought, because in some documentaries,
you thought there'd be reconstructions.
They do those reconstruction things.
I'm with you.
I don't know why I thought that, but basically I wasn't really sold on the idea, so Aidan shouldn't go into pitching. But
well, I assumed you knew what it was.
Yes, but I didn't. So I was never really that excited for it. And going into it today, I was like, let's see what this is about. I had 2 pain au chocolats and I was ready to watch.
Yes.
And I sat down, and the first thing it hit me with was the moment where you find out it's the moment just before he passes on the torch.
Yeah.
But
when he sees the police box.
Yes. And then he walks towards the console, then it starts the opening title.
I see. Yes, that bit.
It is that moment just before he passes on the torch. And my first note here is it's all very magical. Because that moment, I don't have a huge connection to Hartnell, but I do have a huge connection to Doctor Who as a whole entity. I do. So seeing that moment in a purely film sense, where it was as if I was there at the time, was really quite magical. And I wrote that at the start saying it's all very magical, and that's something that went on for the entire watch. I've got literally, those are all my notes.
Yes. 4
little pages of notes. And the idea of it being magical was a blanket statement, because it was all incredibly magical. And I want to say, from my initial thoughts, I really did enjoy it. And it was something wonderful seeing it as if I were there, seeing the creation of this show that I love. Because without what this was at that point in time, I would not have Doctor Who now.
No.
And there were so many moments in it which just broke me just purely because I was connecting through a nostalgia sense to a moment before my nostalgia was even a thing. So I was connecting to my nostalgia in its adolescence, basically. Like when they're one of my favorite moments. I'm just going to jump to this very quickly, just mentioning it. When they were first discussing the part to Hartnell.
Yes. When they were pitching the idea.
Yes.
C.S. Lewis meets H.G. Wells meets Father Christmas.
Perfect. That entire scene, and then the music for some reason kicks up because they're also describing the music. But just in that moment, it was done in such a way that I was just there crying my eyes out. So I was like, I'm seeing the birth of something I love. And that's basically the entire show. Like, I'm going to come to this conclusion eventually, but I think the main point is, if you like Doctor Who,
you're going to like it.
Because it just shows you the birth of something you love, no matter what era you jump in on. Because I'm a new Who fanatic. I'm not a classic Who fanatic, but this was wonderful. You know?
The very first, you wrote magical. The very first thing I wrote was beautiful intro. Because it is just, I do think it is a tone that just follows it all the way through. It's just, there's something really wonderful about Hartnell, especially, and just the creation of the show. Because I was thinking, watching it, like, so many things that, like, in modern Doctor Who or the state of Doctor Who now, whenever we credit something that's good, we always go, well, Russell T Davies wrote this bit. Well, Stephen Moffat wrote that, and I love that. But then when it's one of those things, you think about it, but neither of them created Doctor Who. They reinvented it and they added their own things to it, but they didn't create it. And I think the idea of who created Doctor Who is something you don't really ever see talked about very much. Like you think about, it's an odd example to choose, but you think about a show like Coronation Street.
It's odd, right? You'd think it's an odd one to choose, but that's because Aidan loves Coronation Street, so it's not an odd choice.
But
it's
just,
you're weird.
I haven't watched it for
You're
quite.
just
I
weird.
haven't watched it for quite some time. But whenever that ends, the first credit you see for anything is created by, and then whatever the guy's name is who created it.
I use a Batman reference now, and even back then, but now it also says Bill Finger. It always says Batman created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger, and I know that history.
Yeah. You never see created by Sidney Newman and any of the other names because something that people do criticize about this is that there's a couple of other important producers. I can't think what their names are, but to save time, they combined them into one person, which is the guy who says he invented the auto cue.
Teleprompter.
Yeah. Basically, that was like 2 or 3 people, but they combined it into one because they thought it's far easier than having to follow all these other people. So there's some other names. So if it
were a TV show, they could have done that. But for a film,
yeah. So I think if there were, going to be, I'll Google the names while I'm talking. But I think if there were, like, created by, it'd be Sidney Newman and then a couple of other names. I think C.E. Weber or something is one of them. Yeah, I got that right. So if it did say created by, it would be Sidney Newman, C.E. Weber, and Donald Wilson. They're the 3 people that created it. And I think that's just something we don't really think about much in Doctor Who today. And I think something like this, obviously released for the 50th anniversary, is a good way to just kind of really highlight how important this was. Because obviously, yes, some of this will be dramatized and like exaggerated, and maybe some bits made up and that kind of thing. But still pretty much the chaotic making of it, the impact it needed to have, all these details are real.
The difficulty of getting it started amidst an assassination.
Exactly. All these things, just like, these are all real. This is a show that wasn't destined to be, it's not like we would see it now and go, well, of course it would succeed. This is a time when that's questionable. We don't know if it can succeed, and it managed to do that.
Sci-fi was just bug-eyed monsters and robots. That's all it was.
Yeah.
So to do something slightly different, that's not what producers can be. No, I'm one of them on the films I do. I don't like people. They don't want to put money onto something where it's like, will it work? There's no proof it's going to work. Why am I going to give you money for this kind of thing? So it wasn't guaranteed to succeed. It just wasn't. Nowadays, maybe if it were a new thing now, maybe it'd have more chance of succeeding initially, but it wasn't guaranteed to succeed. But it's wonderful seeing that it does, and it's not because the idea is perfect. because the idea is somewhat flawed early on. There's a reason in like New Who, there are some refinements. There's the addition of the Time War to give the character a different element of backstory, a bit more depth in other places. There's a reason things change. But the reason it succeeded was because of the people involved with it.
Mm.
And I saw the producers and the creators. So you saw the creator Sydney and you saw the producer Verity Lambert. Ah, I got it.
Yeah.
Verity Lambert and the first director played by Sacha Dhawan. I forget the
Waris Hussein.
Waris Hussein. That's it. You see all these important people, and obviously you see William Hartnell. You see all these incredible people and how it's their efforts and their belief in the project that creates the show. And honestly, my favorite element of this entire film was seeing Hartnell from a light of just seeing Hartnell. Because I've seen some episodes of Classic Who. So I've seen the First Doctor. I've seen William Hartnell play the First Doctor.
Yeah.
I've seen that. But to actually see Hartnell and see how
he viewed and cared for the show.
And one of my favorite scenes. You notice how I'm saying my favorite scene and I'm doing a completely different scene?
Yeah.
Because all the scenes are honestly amazing.
Did you write any negative points?
That's a question.
Well, we'll come on to it in a moment.
I don't think I did.
No, I didn't write a single one. That's why I said that.
No, I didn't. But I have got in brackets plus point, which is just me saying I'm learning so much because in my filmmaking career, it was just useful to see all this stuff.
Sure.
But one of my favorite moments, I don't need to look at my notes because I know it's in there somewhere, is the moment where he's discussing William Hartnell is discussing the character of the Doctor with Verity. He's saying he's talking about the TARDIS's console, how it's not been built, and he needs to see it because he needs to see all the buttons because he needs to know what button does what. Because if he pushes the wrong button and then one point it opens the door, the next point it blows up everyone, he needs to know what does what because the kids are going to notice. And that scene, although you could just pass it off as just a scene where he's being overbearing with the script, for example, but he's not. What he's doing there is he's understanding the character and at such
the importance of the detail.
Yes, and it's such an early point of the creation of the show. He's already invested. If someone's thinking about that kind of stuff, they're invested in the show.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a layered thing. And also, he's not just thinking about him needing to know what's happening so the story works. He's thinking about who's going to be watching it and how they're going to view the show. It's a multi-layered thing there. And it was a wonderful insight into Hartnell as a person because he was a professional. Because he didn't, and from what I got from this, he wasn't a professional for himself. He was a professional for whatever he was creating, and the people watching it, be it adults or be it in this case children who were meant to be scared and not traumatized. And I like that because that is Doctor Who in its essence.
Yeah. And also, I know for a fact that is all completely true. Hartnell did label the console and all that kind of thing because he was like, all of that is true. That did happen. But no, you're absolutely right. It is just seeing Hartnell. It's the kind of thing where I say, this is why Hartnell is so important to me. Because you see how important he is to Doctor Who's legacy. You go, well, he's just the first actor who played the Doctor. You know, it's like, no, but Doctor Who wouldn't be successful. If Hartnell was not the first Doctor, would it still be on? I doubt it. That's how important he is to it. And how much care he had for it is integral, and why, you know, anything in the new series where they suggest there were people before Hartnell, I'm like, don't, because that undermines so much of his legacy.
We've mentioned this before, the idea of the Timeless Child and all that coming before, and I've always agreed with you saying it's wrong because it tarnishes the legacy of the Doctor's character. But now that I see this, because it would tarnish Hartnell's legacy, but by seeing this film, I can see how much of Hartnell is in Doctor Who. So to say there's something before tarnishes everything to do with Doctor Who, not just Hartnell. It tarnishes that, but it tarnishes the entire concept of Doctor, full stop, Who. It tarnishes the entire thing. And it makes me very upset, actually, that they're even considering this as a concept, because it should not be a thing.
This is the kind of, because this is something I find, because I love how they even they do give him an arc over the film, and how he starts as very grumpy, and he's like telling his granddaughter, he's like, sod off, leave me alone, kind of thing. And by the end of it, he is chasing kids in the park, playing Daleks and things like that. And because you get two bits in the park, one where his wife is describing Doctor Who to him, and he goes, oh, that sounds interesting. And she goes, it's for kiddies. And his face just kind of drops, and he thinks, oh, for God's sake. But then he is playing with these kids, and he opens up, his relationship with his granddaughter becomes so much better.
Becomes a relationship rather than just him getting angry.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, you just see how he grew as a person through Doctor Who as well. And you just see that, like, William Hartnell and Dr. Dr. Who are really like just at one and the same, because it got to a point where it's kind of like you can't really have one without the other. And I just really love that across this film, because it is like, it's why I always say David Bradley plays Hartnell better than he plays the Doctor, because he nailed, and obviously Mark Gatiss writing it, nailed what Hartnell is, and they really captured just the essence of him and giving him a character, as well as, rather than just going, here's the first guy who played the Doctor, sure, but look how important he actually is.
Here was William Hartnell, and here is his life.
Yes.
And then this is Doctor Who, something he did. And I get what you mean, actually, because by seeing Baker play Bradley. Is it Bradley Baker? No, wait, what's his name?
David
Bradley. Why do
There's no Baker involved in the situation.
No, right. I don't know why I do that, but when I went to write down David Bradley, which is actually in my notes, mind you, my brain went, Bradley D. Baker.
Isn't that a Clone Wars actor?
Yeah, that is the voice actor for a lot of stuff, but mainly the clones in the Clone Wars. So that is just something that I don't know why, but that's just something
is that the
happens.
only Bradley you know?
Probably.
So
Probably. Yes, I'm going to say yes, but no. David Bradley playing William Hartnell, compared to him just playing the First Doctor outright, I think the reason why this is done better, why he does it better here, is because he's playing Hartnell playing the Doctor, and he has that layer behind it, which means you see Hartnell in the First Doctor. You know what I mean? Whereas, yes, when he's just playing the First Doctor,
you're removing Hartnell from the equation.
There's an element where there isn't Hartnell there. It's the First Doctor, but there's an element where you're not. I don't know if he did do this, but maybe he wasn't thinking. He wasn't thinking Hartnell, then the Doctor. Maybe he just jumped to the Doctor. I do get what you mean. It's very hard to put my finger on it, but there is an element there where it's just not quite. It's not the same. It really isn't actually.
Because I think that every time I watch it, I think he like nails Hartnell's mannerisms and everything. Like, it's really like, I wonder how much of Hartnell's stuff he watched in preparation, because even just from the slight like all that kind of thing, slight looks and things, it's good. You are literally Hartnell. But then in Twice Upon a Time, for example, it's basically the idea. It's the essence of First Doctor. It's the idea of the First Doctor, but he's not really playing. He's not giving it his own. Like in the Five Doctors in the 80s, there's a First Doctor now, but it's not played by William Hartnell because he was dead by that point. So they recast him with an actor called Richard Hurndall, and that then is Hurndall is not doing an impression of William Hartnell at all. He's just playing the First Doctor, and he's giving you that idea of what that character was, and that's a bit more like what Bradley's doing, but incorporating some of his Hartnell mannerisms. And it's kind of a bit like, are you playing Hartnell or the Doctor? I'm not sure which you're doing at this point. And that's why I've always thought, I do like that episode, but I'm like, your performance here isn't as good as it was in Adventure in Space and Time. And I think it is because, as you said, when you see him recreating scenes, we're not actually watching the Doctor, we're watching Hartnell. So we're any layer of, oh, this is the Doctor speaking. We're not thinking that. We're thinking this is Hartnell speaking, and he's more believable as Hartnell. So when he is,
and you told me to, sorry, just quickly, you told me to watch an Unearthly Child, not the pilot, before this.
Just part one.
Yes.
I don't want to put you through the rest of it.
Yes. But no, compared to that episode, seeing it in
back to back.
Yeah, seeing it in Adventure in Space and Time back to back, it's the same thing. It's incredible. The other actors
do less of a good job.
Yes, but
they were kind of a bit like
David Bradley,
they probably
on.
auditioning and just went for who looks the most like them.
and even then they don't really. Susan really doesn't.
No,
I'm like, that's not Susan.
no.
But
fair enough.
you're being
You're
kind and
you're
sweet.
doing the essence of again
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do also like it that Carol Ann Ford is also in it as well.
The amount of
Or-
cameos, my word.
There are so many as well.
So many that I don't get.
Yeah, I pointed ones out to you that I thought, I'll just signpost some of these because I feel like you could glance over them.
The Carol Ann Ford one, I think I would have got without because it's like a good 5 seconds of just this random lady screaming, and I'm like, that's good.
Dinner's ready.
Yeah,
The TV
I-
show's on.
I
that you
know
want to
who
watch.
this is,
Yeah.
but
Would you have got William Russell?
I was gonna say that's the one I wouldn't definitely
Yeah.
not.
Would
like,
you have got Nicholas Briggs?
The voice, yes.
Yeah.
Seeing him, I got the voice, and then seeing him, I would have put the pieces together.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mark Gatiss.
If it was just him walking across screen, no idea.
yeah,
Mark Gatiss, yes. Was it Gatiss or Gatiss?
Gatiss.
We've had this discussion, haven't we?
Yeah.
Mark, that
You
one.
would've-
I'm better with recognizing voices than I
Yeah.
am actual people.
I actually genuinely only noticed it. I've seen this about 50,000 times, but I actually only noticed it that voice that goes, Bill, can you do that? And he goes, yes, Mr. Hartnell to you. I only noted that was Mark Gatiss today, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's more like the guy who comes in and says to Sydney, we're way over budget, pull it after 4 episodes. Do you know who I mean?
Mm.
He played Marco Polo in the episode about Marco Polo that they talk about at some point when they're all sat in those fancy outfits and that kind of. It's that.
Yes.
I believe that's Marco Polo. I'm
I
doubting
thought they were
myself.
just playing dress up, I'll be honest with
I'm
you.
doubting myself now. But yeah, he plays Marco Polo. There's a bit when it's Verity's leaving party and they're all singing, for he's a jolly good chap. You might have noticed there's a weird shot on these 2 random old women. They are companions from this time as
Okay.
well. And there's a couple more, I think, that are just like people from this time or maybe slightly later, but just
Yeah.
generally this time that it's like pointing to you. But they're the ones I'm like, these mean nothing to you. So there's no point me going, and there is this person. I don't care. So that was that one. And obviously the 2 other cameos that I left were Reece Shearsmith as Troughton
Mhm.
and Matt Smith, of
Mhm.
course. They were the ones I was like going, I will let him discover them himself.
God, both of them great cameos. First one, that's just a nice cameo. The Matt Smith one honestly broke me.
Yes. it
Like,
did.
seriously.
I can attest from the video he
Yes.
sent me. Where,
If Aidan wants, I'll send him the raw file and he can put it in the YouTube video for this, and you
Maybe.
can just see what that did to me. Jesus Christ! What the fucking hell. That bit does scare me quite a bit. I didn't expect that. I did not expect to see him. I'm actually a fucking wreck right now, Jesus. Oh, look at that shit. Oh my. Because I had no idea that was coming.
Yeah.
And this, in any kind of thing I watch where it's some sort of celebration of kind of what I know of a thing, like if it's a Batman celebration and if like Kevin Conroy shows up, I'm just there like, oh my God, because it's just something wonderful to me. And I was watching this thinking, this is amazing. I like, this is what Doctor Who came from. So you see Matt Smith in the future and David and all that, but it was a very separate thing because this is the birth of it. So just watching it, getting quite emotional at Hartnell's leaving from mainly started by him saying, "I don't want to go,"
Yeah.
which I was like, "Oh my God, so that got me. So I was already quite emotional, and I was just watching him go, and I'm like, "What are you looking at?" I'm crying. What are you looking at? Oh my God, it's Matt Smith, and I was a wreck because
it's one of those you watch, you go, it's so emotional, but he's not even there, but it's so emotional.
But it's because it was the idea of a direct passing of the torch to what the Doctor
and him just like him basically looking at his legacy and his legacy looking back and saying thank you. Basically, I'm getting a bit choked up saying that,
exactly. Yeah.
but that's basically like what that is, and it's one of those moments that I think this is one of those things that can age badly. Because you go, well, he's not the Doctor anymore. This doesn't mean anything. But because this is a 50th anniversary special, and obviously think when it was made, and I think this still is amazing.
It could honestly, I wouldn't have given a rat's ass which New Who Doctor it was, but it being a New Who Doctor, which is a very different, not very different, but it's definitely a different Doctor Who than what it was before the reboot. So just seeing Hartnell pass on and and see what he created, it is something. It's magic realism, for God's sake. That didn't happen, but it's the idea that we can see now. It was more as something where we can see what the birth was. Now we can see the legacy he's created, and it's that coming together of the two times.
It is a very like. It's another magical moment. It really is.
And and as you said, it could be something that could have aged badly or could have been seen as pointless. But it's such a perfect tying off of the entire episode, I think.
Yeah, because it's not something that feels forced or or just like, oh, they've just done it for the sake of it. It feels like part of the plot.
Because I was watching it thinking it would have been nice. It'd be nice to have a cameo of maybe someone new who related, apart from obviously Nicholas Briggs, just someone like just new Doctor. And I was like, that's it's just going to be a cameo. But having the cameo be the character and be Matt Smith, or just Matt Smith playing the Doctor, having it be the Doctor was just something, or is just something amazing. Because I just love that.
So I'm going to say, where do you want to start, as if we haven't been talking for 30 minutes. But is there some way we want to focus in on? Shall we focus in on Lambert Hussein and Newman, really, and just kind of talk about, like, because we've mentioned it, but like the effort Lambert put into it, I think, is definitely worthy of speaking about.
Yes.
And also, just before we do, something that people criticize about modern Doctor Who, they go, "Oh, it's too woke," as if the people who created it weren't a Jewish woman and a gay Indian man. And it's like, that seems pretty woke to me.
I love that it was created and they were such a heavily influence on it being a thing.
Yeah.
I love that, because it's very much just saying, like, whatever idea you think Doctor Who is, it's always been diverse. It just is, you know? You got to get over that fact. You got to get over your own goddamn prejudices and just accept that Doctor Who is a diverse thing.
Yeah.
And that's good, you know?
Yeah. I love the bit when they're in the bar, and I love it because it's never mentioned, but there's the guy looking at them, and you think he's looking at Verity Lambert, but he's looking at Waris, and Waris is looking back. I love that whole bit. And then afterwards, where I'd like to say Sasha Dwan with a bit of Waris is like going, "Oh, imagine if they gave us our own show," and then Verity just goes, "They have." I just love that.
It was the way they portrayed the friendship between the two was wonderful.
Yeah,
because that's what can happen, and because they were both so invested in the idea, in the show, that friendship could blossom. Because their friendship blossomed because there was this other producer. Because he leaves early on.
Rex Tucker, I think.
Rex. Wow, that's my name is Rex Tucker, and but their friendship could blossom because Rex Tucker fucked up. It's a nice kind of like this guy who's just an arsehole and is just being he's just being outright sexist, for God's sake. Sexist, and then there are other people in it. I'm just delving into some of the political issues or whatever. But I love how it kind of it tackled those issues in a very nice way, in the sense of it didn't make it a ham-fisted effort. It was just, this was what was at the time, and these two characters, Lambert and Hussein, they just got through that by just being friends and by focusing on their creation. They got past the sexism from Rex, and then the racism from one of the cameramen. I love that moment with the cameraman, where
that cameraman appears a lot, doesn't he? He's always like the one who's criticizing everything. Because I believe he has 3 moments. He has the bit when he says the racist comment in the studio. He has the bit when the Dalek first passes them, and he goes, "Oh, what are they going to do? Whisk up an omelette?" And there's a bit when they're all
basically the guy was cast as arsehole.
Yeah, and there's the bit where Newman and Lambert are really complimenting Hartnell about his career, and they're all laughing, and then he sits on the side reading a paper, and he just goes, "Freaks," and it's the same guy 3 times.
But what I was just going to say, I like that seen on the camera, because it's nice basically he's being a piece of and then it was really nice how I think it's the first AD person.
Yeah.
They were very much just like, what? Just get basically just f off and get on with
Just
your
do
job. And it was a really nice kind of like, yeah, that guy. Because I was like, shut the f up, dude. And then someone in the in-world universe said, shut the f up, dude. And I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
You know, I like how it dealt with those issues by just showing us the people.
And
You
it's
know?
yeah,
Showing us the people and showing how the people who are sexist or racist or homophobic or any of these things, the people who are like that, they don't succeed. I like that it showed it like that, you know, show that these you won't amount to anything in your life.
because it is a like a real life against the odds story, isn't it?
Underdog story, which I
Yeah,
love. They're
exactly.
amazing.
It is. They even say we've got to prove it to the fag smelling tweed whatever blah blah, blah sweaty men. And it is just, I love that it is something that is a genuine, real part of Doctor Who's history. It is something that they had to fight for to get off the ground, because it was kind of like, we need to make this work to get the idea out there, because we love the idea, and you see Lambert is so passionate about.
We're
the
not
idea
just proving
all the way through,
ourselves.
but we're proving it to ourselves, to them, and really just to the nation, that this is something that not only you need to see, but that we are the right people to make. And you do watch this and you go, you are absolutely the right people to make it. And I just love that. I love that is a part of real Doctor Who history.
It's so easy to watch this and think these are characters, you know? But then you remember it's real history, as you said, and it's such.
And you even get the bit at the end when it shows you, side by side.
I always like that. It's important, so you remember the person than just
them.
the character.
They've also said, obviously, Victoria. Let's say Vicky Lambert. Who the hell is Vicky Lambert? Verity Lambert.
That's the one.
Passed away in 2007. Though obviously that means she had a lot of praise for New Who, so she'd have seen like 2 series roughly around then. She was a big fan of New Who. She loved,
honestly, that gets me quite emotional.
she loved seeing it back and seeing it like for a new generation. She loved seeing Daleks on merch again and these kind of things. It was something she was really proud of and she loved seeing. But obviously she passed away in 2007. But Waris Hussein is still alive, and they actually, a story that Sacha Dhawan says a lot is that when they got to the read through for it originally, he walked in and Waris Hussein was there and he sat behind him the entire time. So Sacha Dhawan said it was the most nervous he's ever been was when he's having to read lines as Waris Hussein with Waris Hussein sat behind him.
Wow. That's wow. Because you got to do it justice. You can't f it up because the dude I'm playing is sitting behind me.
Because Sacha Dhawan. I love Sacha. However much we've criticised his master on this podcast before,
whether it be the writing or the performance,
it's just everything about his master. Really, we're not a fan of.
No,
but as a person, I genuinely love Sacha Dhawan.
All of the stuff his other stuff, I love him in it. And Sacha Dhawan, as a person, as you said,
I love it.
Love the guy.
I remember seeing an interview as well where he said that he spent loads of time with Waris Hussein, getting to know him and just trying to get his speech patterns and his kind of like personality and stuff.
Imagine if you're going out with someone and they just, as the day progresses, they get more like you.
But he said before that him and Waris Hussein are really good friends now, and I love that. And I was like, I love Sacha Dhawan in this, even though I now see his master and I'm like, ugh. But I still see him in this, and I still see the Sacha Dhawan that I love and Waris Hussein.
The moment he showed up in this, I was like, "Hey, it's master!" But Sacha Dhawan is incredible, and in this he is incredible.
Yeah,
he's brilliant in this, you know. And it's just like, it just makes me quite sad that the master we got doesn't work, because Sacha Dhawan could have been a great master if the writing was better, if the characterization was better. How did that? I don't get it. You know, how did it? It could have been. Let's not dwell on it
because we're praising.
We're in a very good mood
now.
here. Yes. Let's not talk about the Jodie era just before now, because I think it's on a good track right now.
Well, the reason I've not done a Who Knows in this episode is because I don't really want to talk about once
Yeah, me
upon,
neither, but good, yeah.
once upon
I
time.
was just thinking, we haven't done a Who Knows section, but that's
No, I purposefully skipped it because, I mean, I still genuinely don't know what I think about it, but it's not very positive. Well, actually, I was going to say this. Okay.
I'd rather it.
Very brief moment, but first episode, I gave 5 out of 10. Second episode, I gave 9 out of 10 because I really loved that one. This one, I gave 3. So my average for Flux when it was like 7 out of 10, I was going, this is pretty good. It's now dropped to 5.6 because it's like going, look what one episode can do. But anyway, well, let's not dwell on that.
Well, we just praised Sacha Dhawan's Waris Hussein. I don't know the
Jessica Raine,
who plays Verity Lambert,
and is also in Doctor Who at some point.
Yes,
as well.
she as Verity Lambert, amazing. Just want to praise her as playing. Like, I think everyone who played everyone in this was amazing, but her playing Verity, it was just really good performance.
You know, she really gave it piss and vinegar.
She really did. But I also want to just praise Verity Lambert as a person, because girl had piss and vinegar.
Yeah.
That's such a weird phrase, isn't it? What the fuck? No, but she was strong and against the odds and
passionate.
And yeah, there was so much to that. It's like she was passionate in what she wanted to do and passionate in what she wanted to create. And every around her, even Sydney in some places, was against her, for God's sake, you know? And I love how she was able to just fight against that. And one of the key moments is where she goes to the set designer, production designer actually, or whatever. So he might be a specific one. Goes in
of
there.
the art department
of the art department Variety, yes. She goes in there and she's just like, I'm going to stay here until you make me a set. Just do it. And I love that. And then he does, and I do love how he makes it in like 5 seconds. Maybe that was a bit dramatized, but it was a really...
It gets the point across.
Exactly, but I love that. And there are so many moments in this where Verity's just basically fighting against everyone thinking they can't do this.
Yeah, you got other highlight moments, obviously, with Rex Tucker when she says, I believe you're awaiting the appointment of the permanent producer. He goes, oh, is he with you? And I just love the language. She goes, you're looking at him.
Boy.
Love that bit. And I love the bit where Sydney is basically telling her to call it a day. And she's like going, no, because you've not seen our Dalek script yet. And this is going to be good. And then as she's walking out, she goes, oh yeah, give us a repeat.
I love that.
Repeat as well. And I just love that bit as well. And they did. It was repeated. So,
and it's good it did, because it was smashed slap bang in the middle of the JFK assassination. I mean, no one would have, like as Hartnell says in the film, no one's watching this. They're all watching the news. So they needed that repeat. So that it's such a small moment in the film. It shows Verity's character, but it's also, that's such an important part of the history, because without that, people wouldn't really know what's going on. And if you don't know what's going on in the first episode, you're never going to watch the second. There are so many moments in this which are tiny, but they show you either the character or the history or both.
Yeah.
Like, there's no scene in this I would cut. That's basically what it comes down to. I love every scene.
Just here, I'll move on to something else in a moment. I do want to say something else here, but
that's the point of a podcast, Aidan.
Just first,
I just want to say one thing,
because we were talking about Lambert. I'm just going to say now, the relationship between Hartnell and Lambert as well.
You're my rock, as Hartnell said.
Yes, I love that whole thing. I love it. Just how much, again, that thing I was saying about him opening up with his emotions and really being able to be a better person and grandfather throughout. When he's saying to her, "I'm frightened. I've never played a part like this before. I don't know if I can really do this." I really like that, because he's this stern old man who was born in a very long time ago. Let me check while I just do this weird voice. Hartnell, birth. No, not by. That's not a word. He was born in 1908. He is a very old.
Wow.
He is a very old man, and he is, well, technically he's only 50 something here, but he looks much older. But he is from that era of, we are men, we don't do it, and him just saying, whether it's true or not, but definitely it would be true that they had a great relationship because it's emphasized so much. It would be, true. I just love that he is in this, regardless of whether it's true or not, just as a story for this film.
I don't doubt it isn't based off
Some
something.
fact, yeah,
Yeah.
because his granddaughter was involved in the production of it. Yeah. But the whole thing where he is just saying, "I'm frightened," and opening up to her, and then even like when Heather comes in and is saying, "I'm concerned about him," and that's the woman that she thinks to go to, and that kind of thing. I love that because it just shows that it is a real tight knit family making Doctor Who, and it does remind you of a more contemporary example like Russell and David and Catherine, for example, who are all really good friends, and it just reminds me of something like that, and I really love that detail. So the thing I want to move on to next, because of the theming of this podcast, Exterminating Doctor Who, the oncoming of the Daleks, and that whole sequence.
Really nice to see them. And I do like how it was like, they're just robots. And then Verity Lambert was like, they're not. And then gives you the full backstory of the Daleks. They're not because of their mutations, blah, 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 blah. That was cool. And then also seeing how that cameraman guy was just like, oh, they're just, just like, they're just whisks. And I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
And then when you see them in action and the people behind the scenes say,
That's
they're actually,
creepy.
they're actually quite creepy, aren't they? And then you see how children latch on to the Daleks as this thing, it's just the idea of it's just again the idea of the Daleks being more than just, first, they are scary, they are good, and it was nice seeing their introduction to people, not just the characters, their introduction to the wider world and how people received it. Great seeing it,
Yeah, because I love everything for the moment. Because I also love that the music choice they put over it. That when you get that shot of the guy, on the weird bikey thing that you have to make the Dalek move, you immediately know what that is. But it is purposely doing it, so it's building it up, and it shows you the inside, then it shows you the skirt, and then it shows you the lamp and all of that kind of thing. Intercut with obviously the JFK montage bit as well.
I didn't know what was happening there, but I was like, oh my, this is quite dark.
Because actually I was watching it today and I thought, are they trying to make you think that Sidney Newman's going to be assassinated? Because
I thought they were trying to do a parallel between the Daleks and death, maybe. Don't know what.
before
I knew it was
yeah.
JFK, I was like, is this what they're going for?
Yeah, but I thought it was really weird because obviously I knew what it's going to be. But I thought it was really weird. It's doing like a shot where it is like a sniper comes down like that, and then it shows you a shot of Sidney Newman walking up and down next to a window. And I thought, are they trying to go Sidney Newman's going to be assassinated? I thought, is that what they're doing? And then you see the Dalek eye.
This has taken quite an artistic license, hasn't it?
I don't remember.
Sidney Newman gets assassinated, and then the Daleks are real.
Yeah, well, this
Like,
is
hold on, was this history or?
That's An Adventure in Space and Time as directed by Tarantino, isn't it? When he does his own spins in history.
There'll be loads of
isn't
feet, and he'll just be an arsehole.
Yeah. But no, everything, when you see that, and that music is just really ominous as they're going in, and you see everything in the studio. And you have to remember that we do think we look at Daleks now and we go, bit naff, really, the design, if you really think about it. But they can be scary. You got to think that at this time, this would have been.
I mean, we spoke about Dalek, for God's sake, last week.
Exactly. But you would have been like, at this time, that would have been terrifying. Actually, because, the first time we see them, it is just, as I believe Barbara's against the wall and screaming, ah! And you just see the plunger and the thing come in to shot, and then the credits, that's all you see. And then the next episode, you get the exterminate Ian, and you get all of this stuff going on. They would have been terrifying. And there is notoriously, in the 60s, it's been dubbed Dalek Mania, when suddenly it was like going, like the two Peter Cushing films, for example, were like, Daleks are popular, let's make a film. Daleks, a bunch of load of toys came out. As you saw, there was a fancy dress costume. Daleks got their own line of comics. Like, everything went crazy over Daleks. There's a very famous picture of John Lennon doing a signing or something, and there's a full-size Dalek behind him. And that's a very famous picture because people go, this is the moment when the 60s peaked, because Beatles mania met Dalek mania, and that's just the most 60s picture you could ever see. And I just love how it treats them like, it does this ominous music and all this kind of thing to point out this is a really big turning point for the show at this point, because it is like people may have enjoyed Unearthly Child. They may have. It doesn't really focus on whether they did or not in this episode because it is a bit of a slog of an episode because they're basically just sat in a cave for about 3 parts trying to light a fire. This isn't great TV. When it gets to the Daleks, yes, it is way too long, as we've discussed before, but it is a massive turning point. And that bit when they're on the bus, whatever reason, she's on the bus, she never explains, but you get like,
Well, she does. She said she wanted to get to know their audience.
Well,
Which is
but I don't think that's the reason she got the bus.
But to be
That's
fair,
just
that
kind
is
of
actually
just
that
what she
that
says.
is what
but,
some people do. Maybe
well,
maybe
sure.
maybe
I
she's,
don't really think it is.
maybe
but
she was
sure.
following someone. Maybe she was on the beat.
I think she was just being a bit witty there. But the bit where they are just going exterminate, exterminate, and you just see her like, wait, what? And then she looks at them. I love that moment, and all the way to in the park when they're like going, when are the Daleks coming back? You just see how integral they are to Doctor Who's success as well, and how this is a major point for Doctor Who. And I just love that whole sequence, like full 10 minutes, however long it is. I just love all of that, the whole Dalek bit.
We got to see, yeah, because the Daleks are, as we discussed last week, they're an integral part of the Doctor and the entire world of Doctor Who. But it was really nice just seeing how people perceive the Daleks at the time, because it's these days that people do perceive them as, oh, it's the Daleks again, but they're still good episodes usually. But back then, such a new thing, and for this new thing, which they are basically just tins on wheels, to be so impactful, it's like, I see why they're still around,
Because people loved them so much when they originally were a thing. This is why they're so iconic. Like when Hartnell points out, look, they've made it into the political comic strip that you get in the satirical bit you get in newspapers, and it's just like, look what the impact we've had. I love it. I think it's a really great representation of that. The quote where it says in it, Hartnell says, I always said there was only one man who could take over. Apparently that's a real quote. There is some debate as to whether it was a manufactured quote. You get these kind of corporate things that they put out there. But the idea that he could have said there is only one man who could possibly take over, and that is Patrick Troughton, is allegedly something Hartnell did really say, and it was in the papers and that kind of thing. He always said that he loved Troughton and he loved Pertwee. He loved their doctors, because even if they were doing something different, he loved that Doctor Who was still on TV, and he loved that people were still appreciating it. So I just having him leave for those reasons is just like, this just adds to that magical thing, because he's like saying, I'm going to step away because I have to, but you carry on because you need to. And I just love that. And I think the film actually ending with the Matt Smith cameo, and then you get the updated where they are, and then you get the clip of real Hartnell. I think that's the perfect end for it, just to kind of be like, and here's the real man himself doing the iconic, already I know this off by heart, one day I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there's be no regrets, no tears or anxieties. Just go forward and all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. Goodbye, Susan. It just does that bit at the end. I think that's
I'm glad you weren't cast.
it just does that great. I think that's a perfect end for it. Just that moment there, and then
when I was seeing that
credits.
moment, I was thinking, I prefer this. Like the way Hartnell did it. I was like, it's not no tarnishing David Bradley's performance, but it was just like seeing Hartnell do it. I was just like, yeah, you're the first Doctor. Yeah.
Because that's when you are
the first Doctor.
At that point, you are watching the Doctor, but you go, oh, this really is Hartnell.
This is giving this whole film. It's really hard not to say episode, because we always talk about episodes.
Yeah.
Has just given me appreciation for Hartnell as a person. Show me Doctor Who's past and all that kind of thing, and that's great. But one thing it's done, which is
the big
important,
takeaway, is Hartnell.
Yeah, Hartnell as a person, and giving me this connection to him, And
That's
if
what
ever
I
I
was saying.
watch Classic Who in the future, if I do watch a first Doctor episode, I'll be able to enjoy it more because I'll know the person.
But really, the big takeaway, if you had to say what is the one thing to take away, it really is just Hartnell and his love and protection for Doctor Who. And that is why I love this so much and watch it about 3 times a year since its release, because I'm just like, it is just amazing.
I finally get why you like it
Yes.
and why you praise it. And what I don't get is why I don't hear about it more from other people. You know?
I think it's probably because it's one of those things that came out, the fans watched it, but it's not really, didn't really break through to public.
They
kind of thing.
should do, because it is. Re-release it. Do a repeat. Yeah, that's what you should do.
Yeah. They could probably do that for the 60th, actually, probably repeat it, actually. That'd be good.
Do a new one, but it's just about
Mark
David Tennant.
Mark Gatiss actually tried. It was something he actually tried to make for years. Like he said that he was trying. He was like pitching it in like the late 90s, the early noughties. Like saying, I want to make this film. I want to make film. And then the Doctor Who's 40th anniversary in 2003, they're going, I want to make this, because Doctor Who wasn't back on TV and it was still seen as something a bit naff. They just didn't really let him do it. And you know that comedy sketch that he does with David Walliams?
Yeah.
He did that instead. But you can see that is him channeling him wanting to do this project. He's going, let's make a comedy skit about the creation of Doctor Who, because you can see he really wants to make this. When he finally came to the 50th, obviously he's best buds with Stephen Moffat. Like, give me a green light.
Yeah, why not?
There you go. And then made this, which is just incredible and probably one of the best things Mark Gatiss has ever written. If not the best.
I think it's an amazing Doctor Who celebration, but also I think it's just a hell of a film.
It is, yeah.
Like, it's a really good film.
Yeah.
It's great. I love underdog stories, and Doctor Who is. It's nice knowing it's an underdog story more than anything, because it's like, I love underdog stories, underdog films. Amazing. Some of my favorite to watch.
Yeah.
And it's like, Doctor Who was one of them. Oh, great.
Yeah.
You know, it's brilliant film. Just if you like films, go watch this. Just everyone, go watch this. All.
If you have any interest in Doctor Who, or ever at any point, if you have any interest in the history of broadcasting, if you have any interest in how TV is made, there are so many things that it's just like, just watch it, because it will just make you appreciate it so much more, and you will just find a love for it.
If you like the history of the teleprompter, you'll get a kick out of this.
Yes, you will. Yes.
But no.
If you have, do you have anything else to add?
No. But
So,
final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Oh, I do actually. Final thoughts. Let me get to my final note here. Do you want to read it? Can you read it from here?
Amazing.
Yeah, big amazing.
Oh, I could just above that. I just see Matt Smith.
3 pluses. No. Amazing. Honestly, brilliant, fantastic. Brilliant, fantastic. Oh yes. Geronimo. Everyone say wee! And whatever Jodie's catchphrase is.
But she doesn't have one anymore, does she?
She doesn't have any more, does she? That's her catchphrase.
Capaldi doesn't have one either.
He does. He says, let everyone say we, and he says it twice. That is his catchphrase. I think this is brilliant. It's just brilliant. And I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 from me as well.
Go watch it. Just watch it.
I have no faults with it when I'm being critical. I have no faults with it when I'm just watching it. It's kind of like one of those comfort watches you have. You just go, I fancy something. It's like if you go, oh, I fancy Doctor Who. Well, can I be bothered with an episode? I fancy classic Doctor Who, but I can't be bothered with black and white. I'm going to go to An Adventure in Space and Time. I just love it. I will never say a bad word about it. I will recommend it to anybody that hasn't seen it. It is perfect. And that is that for this week. Next week, despite the fact we are doing series 2, which means we are doing the episode that everybody loves, because that means they should all be great, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
What?
Well, next week we're doing Rosa.
Oh.
An episode that people love. And you may be listening to this going, what is he hinting at here? It all will be revealed next week.
I haven't seen Rosa.
No.
Could be my first time watching
it.
But right, basically, I've heard good things from the wider population, from Aidan himself.
I can't stand it.
Yeah.
But all will be revealed next week. So join us then. And until then, goodbye.
Bye-bye.